So here it is. We are down to the top 10 players from year one. Let's see how many of your favorites cracked our list.
We're into the top 10. Chris Danko at 10? That's a little surprising.
A long history with his head coach led Chris Danko to become one of the first signings in Forge history. Despite being relatively undersized for a forward, Danko uses agility to excel in cutting to the front of goal to create goal-scoring opportunities. He potted 5 in his first campaign.
This one's going to be controversial, I think, to have him this high in the list.
Some people will look at this list and wonder what the heck Chris Danko is doing so high up. Yes, he had a bad start to 2019. Yes, he was benched by Bobby Smirniotis. But by the end of the season, by the last 10 games and the CPL finals, for me, he was one of the best players in the league.
He came on late, but he fell out of favor with Bobby Smirniotis midway through the season. Fought for minutes, but I guess you can call him Mr. October for the Canadian Premier League because he really came on late.
For me, though, the reason he is here is because in the big moments, Chris Danko showed up, scored a tremendous goal in CONCACAF League against Olympia, the best team Forge played all year, any CPL team, in my opinion, played all year. CPL finals, I thought he was fantastic. First leg in particular with Kwame Awuah, they dominated that left flank.
Really, it's not about how you start, but how you finish. And for a guy like Chris Danko, the 2019 season will be defined by his incredible performances at the end of the year, specifically in the first leg of Finals 2019. Forge FC doesn't win that game without Danko bombarding cavalry on that right side.
I thought he actually got fitter throughout the season, and by the end of 2019, you saw what Chris Danko can be and what he will be going forward.
Another player who plays much bigger than his size, Marco Bustos, was the engine of Valor's offensive output. 8 goals and 3 helpers in 2019 led the way for the Winnipeg outfit, making him a top threat for every club that tried to slow him down.
Marco Bustos at number 9 is a great spot for him. He's a very talented young player, a kind of player that I think took destiny into his own hands this year. It would have been very easy to stay at the Whitecaps and kind of play off the bench, but he decided he wanted to be a star in a team, and that's exactly what he was for Valor FC.
Tough year for Valor, but if you were paying for a season ticket, I think this guy was worth the price of admission for you all year long. He, for me, in terms of, it's very clear that he obviously models his game on Messi. He's a left-footed player who likes to come inside and play in those areas, and he's the one who for me, has that Tristan Borges level of ability. Now, he wasn't quite as consistent as Borges, and he obviously didn't play in a stronger team, but that level of talent is there.
So Marco Bustos holds a special place in my heart. I remember the first interview he actually ever gave for Valor FC. He was talking about how one of the reasons he wanted to come to the CPL was because he watched me every week on OneSoccer and he thought the broadcasts were great. So Marco Bustos, for me, not only do you have a wand of a left foot, you also have a special place in my heart because of the shout out you gave OneSoccer right when you got to the CPL.
I think Marco Bustos could probably be in the top 3 if he had a right foot. But he's got a terrible right foot.
He was a joy to watch all year. His skill on the ball, his vision, his ability to just read what's going on around him and find and create space. This is the type of player that, for me, I like to watch and the reason I love football. So he I think, is going to be a perennial top 10 player in our list as long as he's in the CPL.
And Marco Bustos still owes me a rematch after beating me at FIFA.
Few players had a better 2019 than Marco Carducci. A call-up to the Canadian national team was just one of his many highlights. Speaking of highlights, his PK stop on Tristan Borges kept his side's title hopes alive on the road. His CPL leading 9 clean sheets helped propel him to Golden Glove honors, as well as being named the Volkswagen Premier Performer.
Marco Carducci is a player who 5 years ago, I think I tweeted publicly that I didn't think he would amount to anything as a young goalkeeper at the Vancouver Whitecaps. I think they put him into a Canadian Championship situation. So
Marco Carducci is one in a long line of goalkeepers who Kurt Larson has written off after watching about once. So I've got a tweet here from 2014. Kurt Larson, scouting report against Carducci, play balls into the box, float them in. The 17-year-old is lost when balls are in flight. So Marco, there's a few of your CPL colleagues who can kind of sympathize with your position there, but you proved Kurt wrong. all year long. Undoubtedly the best goalkeeper in the league.
I didn't think he performed that well. Yes, he was young, but back then I wrote him off, and now here he is as one of the best players in the CPL, a player who's very deserving of being in the top 10. Sure hands, underrated distribution. For me, the best goalie in the CPL, and the reason he's the top goalie on this list.
Marco, you don't have to listen to anything Kurt says. Really, you can just roll up those power windows in the 2019 Volkswagen Jetta GLI you won as our 2019 Premier Performer mate. So it's all good.
I think he deserved his call-up. I think that position is up for grabs. I think you've got two good goalkeepers in Milan Boyan and Max Crepeau, who are going to be the two goalkeepers for Canada for some time. But that third slot has been kind of a rotating cast, and I think Carducci has as good a shot as anyone at claiming it.
There were a few players this year in the CPL who were deserving of John Herdman's attention with the Canadian men's national team. Marco Carducci, definitely one of them, just for how he performed, so consistent. And I think John Herdman was watching during that Canadian Championship Series against the Vancouver Whitecaps and Montreal Impact when Marco Carducci really held his own and showed he could play at that level.
Described as a serial winner by his coach, Mason Trafford gives you everything you could want in a center back. Leadership and experience are hard to quantify in stats, but make no mistake, this Canadian international was invaluable to Cavalry's dominant season.
Mason Trafford, he's a guy where you look at him and you'd love to have him as your neighbor. He's just a nice smile, he's so polite, and really a great center back.
I know that we talk a lot about Dominic Oduro, and I know that Kurt Larson likes to take credit for Dominic Oduro's success this year, but I think Mason Trafford might have had a little more to do with it. 33-year-old veteran presence in the back, probably in Odoro's ear a lot and helped him.
Kind of a difficult one to praise, Mason Trafford, because he just doesn't do anything wrong. It's not so much about, one kind of particular quality that stands out, just as it is, he doesn't make mistakes. He very rarely even looks like he's in any kind of trouble, even against some of the top CPL forwards in the league. And he's just an experienced, accomplished veteran player who was really crucial for Cavalry as soon as he got in the lineup.
He never makes a mistake. He's never at fault for a goal, it seems. Not the fastest guy in the league, but he doesn't need to be fast because he reads the game so well. Actually shocked that we haven't seen him more in the red and white with Canada. He's also one of the funniest guys in the league.
As far as, experienced centre-backs go, he is obviously possibly the best of them, along with David Edgar, and a really important component of Cavalry's success this year for sure.
Don't take this the wrong way, Dominique Malanga, but I think you're the most arrogant player in the CPL.
Yeah, if you ask Dom Malanga, he'd say he should be number one on this list, but that's what you love about him, right? He's confident.
Despite a disappointing CPL finals, few forwards gave coaches a bigger headache than Dominique Malanga. Dom finished 2 goals shy of Tristan Borges for the Golden Boot, and no players had more multi-goal outings than the Frenchman.
Dominique Malanga was not only an effective striker for Cavalry FC, he was the most effective attacking piece on that team. The fact that he finished the season with 11 goals is a testament to that, but if you look at the center circle data on his expected goals, there's actually an interesting trend there too. He was expected to score significantly more, would have been the Golden Boot winner. I'm sure he'll want to work on that in 2020 and beyond.
Yeah, Dom Malanga, silky smooth, smart attacker. You see the runs that he makes. He's very patient, and he picks the right lane. And he's a good finisher as well. I know that the analytics say should have scored more, but he's always in the right position.
Kind of like a little bit like a Thierry Henry, if you know what I mean. Somebody who kind of walks around with his head up a little bit. I'm the best striker in the league. I score goals for fun. Maybe got ahead of himself ahead of the CPL finals where he completely disappeared. Nonetheless, on ability alone and the stats this year, he should have more goals actually. On the stats this year, he was the best number 9 in the CPL for me.
Kind of two storylines to his season really. For the most part, I thought this guy was just a class act. The intelligence he plays with, he just sees things happen before they even develop, and he moves in the right spot. He's got quality with the ball at his feet. He's deceptively quick as well. I think one of the quicker players in Cavalry squad, which you maybe wouldn't expect. But then year obviously ended on a sour note in the CPL finals, which was probably his 2 worst performances of the year. So you have to count that against him, and maybe he would have been a top 3 player.
If I could give Oliver Platt one gift, it would be to have Daniel Crutzen pay him a visit, write him a card, say thank you for all the support this year. Got a little bit something in your teeth there, Oliver Platt. But
Belgium's Daniel Crutzen seemed to always be involved in the play for Forge. The import fullback led the nation with 1,211 completed passes and owns the distinction of scoring the first goal from a Canadian club in CONCACAF League history.
The complete modern centre-back, everything you want in a defender. He's young, he's athletic. He has just tremendous quality on the ball. He's better than most midfielders with the ball at his feet. This is a guy who I think if you're a club somewhere else in the world and, with a bit more money than maybe CPL teams have to play with, this is the guy you should be looking at as much as anyone else in the entire league. I think he's got so much potential.
He says Crutzen, but we keep calling him Crutzen over and over again. So I'm going to try to make sure I say Crutzen. Daniel Crutzen.
Daniel Crutzen, just a versatile defender, left-sided center back who he can ping a pass, he can pick out, he can start an attack with a long distance pass. Left back, center back, wherever it is on the pitch, Daniel Crutzen's a smart player, and I think someone who, if bigger clubs either in Europe or maybe Major League Soccer are watching this league closely, Daniel Crutzen is somebody they're keeping an eye on.
Daniel Crutzen is the perfect example of a no-nonsense defender. And when you're a team like Forge, you play this direct attacking football, you need confidence that your back line is heralded by a guy like Daniel Crutzen, who's comfortable on the ball, comfortable in possession, and comfortable cycling the play when needed.
Daniel Crutzen.
Daniel Crutzen.
Daniel Crutzen.
Daniel Crutzen.
Daniel Crutzen.
He says Crutzen.
Creator. Perhaps the best word to describe Julian Buescher. Well deserving of a top 5 entry, the German won possession more times than any other player and had the second most chances per 90 minutes. The crafty center mid contributed 5 goals and 4 assists in 2019.
Julian Buescher wasn't a statistical leader in any of the defensive or midfield categories, interceptions, tackles, blocks, but he was high up, top 5 across the board on all of those, more consistent than any other player in this league. And for that, I think number 4 is exactly where he should be.
Julian Buescher, smart, efficient. Not surprised then that he drives a smart car?
Julian Buescher, probably unlucky not to be an MVP candidate. I thought he deserved it ahead of his teammate Dom Malanga. Just a consistent player in midfield, someone who can hit a restart. I think he scored a few goals from free kicks this season, so he's dangerous in the attacking third at times as well.
Julian Buescher for me was just the heartbeat of Cavalry's team for most of the season. A complete midfielder, complete number 8. Wins the ball back, I think, better than any other player in the division. He's also a good passer of the ball, a good playmaker. Chipped in with a few goals as well. And if you look at the 2 things that Cavalry were better than everyone else at, for me it was the way they pressed and it was their set-piece play. And Julian Buescher was kind of the face of those 2 things. He's got an incredible engine, wins the ball back brilliantly, and he's also their free kick taker, their corner taker, and provided great service for the likes of Dominic Oduro and Dom Malanga all year long. So for me, if anyone embodied Cavalry as a team this year, it was Julian Buescher.
Might get a little emotional talking about Dominic Oduro, to be honest. He was that good this year.
Okay, so where do we start with Dominic Oduro?
A tremendous ball hawk, Cavalry's Dominic Oduro is the top-ranked defender on our list. His play made the Cavs' backline one of the toughest to crack in Canada, and he added 3 goals and 2 assists. A Calgarian through and through, he racked up over 3,000 minutes and certainly earned his call-up to Team Canada.
One word to describe Dominic Oduro, I would say, is unheralded. Didn't get as much credit as he deserved outside of these walls, outside of these OneSoccer walls this year. Yes, did eventually receive a call-up to Canada's men's national team. I'm not going to say I played a part in that, but I did talk him up throughout the season and kind of put it out there that he deserved one. Dominic Oduro has a unique ability to step into midfield and combine and create passes and even kind of advance into the attacking third, which I think for a lot of center backs in the CPL, I think they're kind of lacking that as part of their game. It's just the ability to attack space and to get forward into those gaps whenever the opportunity presents itself.
Well, Dominic Oduro is the best player in this league. I don't know where he'd be if it weren't for me. I've been talking about this guy since day one, and every time I see him play, I figure, bigger and brighter things for this guy. I'm sure he's going to go to the English Premier League at some point. I'm glad he got a Canadian national team call-up, but can't wait to see him play Champions League football in Europe one day. Dominic Oduro has to be the best player in the world. Ballon d'Or for him at some point.
Captain, midfield general, difference maker. Forge's captain was nominated for league MVP after doing just about everything you could ask of a player. From his technical skills, level head, and finishing abilities, Kyle Becker always seemed to rise to the occasion, including the CPL finals, always leading by example.
If I had a pick for league MVP, I would have chosen Kyle Becker.
I think if you want to make a case for Kyle Becker being number one on this list, and the most valuable player in the league this year, it's not just based on who he is as a player, which is the best central midfield playmaker in the CPL, but it's also based on the influence he had on his teammates.
When I first met Kyle Becker, he was this shy 18-year-old coming out of university, and the fact that he celebrated the North Star Shield with as much confidence and poise as he did really shows how far he's come in this game.
A player who came into the CPL with a lot to prove, regardless of his past, and I think stepped up not only on the field, but off the field. Maybe the best passer in the CPL. His ability to pick out a pass on the first touch was fantastic all year. So a leader in the dressing room, which is something we really didn't see from him in the past, and someone who produced for Forge FC.
I like that Kyle Becker has some fight in him as well. It's inspiring, and you see that the rest of his teammates appreciate that type of leadership.
The guy barely missed a minute, seemed to play every game, seemed to always be out there, multiple positions, and he did everything that they signed him up for and then some.
There he is, number one.
Number one had to be him. The MVP, the U21 Player of the Year, the Golden Boot winner.
What is there left to say about Tristan Borges, the perfect example of a Canadian Premier League player?
Taking home 3 major awards at just 21 years of age is an unbelievable accomplishment, but that's what we've grown to expect from Tristan Borges. The Golden Boot winner, MVP, and Young Canadian of the Year is exactly the kind of player the CPL dreams of producing. Leading the league in goals and assists, you literally can't ask more of a forward.
Tristan Borges, not surprised to see him in this spot. For such a young player, he shows great poise, he's smart, and then he can finish.
It's pretty simple with Tristan Borges. Whenever Tristan Borges gets the ball at his feet, he is dangerous. He will take on one defender. He will take on 2 defenders. He'll cut inside. He'll cut outside. He can deliver, and he can shoot from long distance.
There's no one in this league with as much talent as Tristan Borges. Just a joy to watch. It's not just what he does with the ball, it's just his sense of the game. He sees things a step faster than everyone else.
So you see a lot of players who are able to make the runs or even create chances. We've talked about them in this list, but the thing about Borges is that he delivers that goal, and it gives you that moment. And we saw that moment in the first leg of the CAMPL finals.
Tristan Borges, for me, the most creative player in the CPL, the most dangerous player in the CPL, and maybe an underrated aspect of his game was he's really smart. His ability to find space, to know what opposing defenses are trying to do and exploit those gaps.
He's a player who has as much skill and as much talent as anyone in the league, but he also has possibly the best brain of any player in the CPL, and that to me makes him a clear choice for number one, a comfortable choice as the best player in the league.
And there you have it. After a clean sweep of the CPL awards, Tristan Borges tops our standings as the best CPL player, with teammate Kyle Becker just behind, and Cavalry FC's Dominic Oduro rounding out the top 3. So how do you feel about the rankings? Let us know your thoughts on social media at OneSoccer. Who's too high? Who's too low? Who should have made it in? Thank you all for joining us today as we counted down the top 50 players in the CPL of 2019 for the entire OneSoccer crew. I'm Adam Jenkins, and we'll see you real soon.